Alright, so, I want to get into the time where, I took SD to New York, you know what I mean, for the first time, because he'd never been to New York, you know what I'm saying? You know, because around this time, Duke already, moved to Florida. So that means, so me and SD, we were getting closer and was running the streets of Dallas, you know, harder than, really putting in that work, you know what I mean? But around this time, him and Jay was going back and forth, stressing, you know what I mean? And, one time we was talking, we was on the block. He said he never been in New York. I'm like, what? I was like, yo, you gotta experience New York, man, you know what I mean? Da-da-da-da-da. So, we decided on one particular weekend, we was on book flights to go to New York, you know what I mean? Me and SD would go out there and then link up with some of my homies, back home, you know what I mean? Cool, so it was like a Thursday. We catch a flight from Dallas to New York, JFK. We land in JFK, you know what I mean? In New York, you know what I mean? It's an airport in New York. I had my cousin, you know what I mean? My first cousin on my mother's side, you know what I mean? Shaq Capone, you know what I mean? That's my cousin. Shaq Capone picks us up. Me and SD picks us up in a Range Rover, you know what I mean? Navy blue Range Rover. Fly shit, you know what I mean? Kitted out, all that, right? So, as we leaving, as we driving out the airport, I wanted to go towards an old neighborhood. I wanted to go get a shape-up lineup. So we went to Guy Brewer on 134. We went to Twice as Nice as a barbershop / hair salon. You know what I mean? Owned by my this chick I went to school with named Lindy or whatever. Shout out to her. So, me and SD and my cousin, we go into, Twice as Nice. People surprised to see me back in New York, shake hands, hugs, all that. So, waited for my barber who been shaping me up since I was like a teenager and shit, my man Dan or whatever. So I'm getting the line up. But first, before I did that, I went and got my hair washed and braided by my girl Wendy. She washed and braided my hair, then I got my line up. SD just got like a regular haircut, line up haircut. So got my line up. Then boom, we head up the block towards my projects where I'm from, Baisley Projects. I want stop, get some Jamaican food, because like I said, it's been a minute since I've been back home, so we stopped at the door. This Jamaican spot called The Door. Got, some of the best Jamaican food in Queens and New York, you know what I mean? SD was like, dance food, banging blood. So we ate some Jamaican food, then we head up to my projects. Show love, you know what I mean, to my, my old neighborhood. Everybody showing SD love, couldn't know, because I got Bloods and Crips in my projects where I'm from, you know what I mean? Boom, hung out there for about, maybe an hour, half hour, something like that. So boom, so me and SD hop back in the Range Rover with my cousin. He takes us to the city where we book rooms at the Hilton. Boom, so my cousin drops us off. We check in the Hilton. And we just mellowed out for the rest of the day, SD had, his own room. I had my own room, you know what I mean? So we booked 2 rooms at the Hilton. Boom, chilling, you know what I mean? It was kind of jet lagged, so we chilled for the rest of the day or whatever. Next day on a Friday, we wanted to go shopping, you know what I mean? Ain't nothing like shopping in New York, you know what I'm saying? So as me and SD, we heading, we running around, Harlem, in Manhattan, cause Harlem and Manhattan's connected. We run around Harlem shopping. I get a mass text for my nigga, Jaffe Top Tiger, y'all can look him up. Jaffe Type Tiger, he's a rapper from Queens, Fisher nigga, shout out to him. I get a text saying that SexyyRed is in Queens, y'all can look this up. Look up SexyyRed in Queens video shoot. And I get a text from Jaffe. He's texting, he sends a mass text saying, yo, SexyyRed is in Queens, she's gonna be shooting a video to her song Ski in Queens. He wanted everybody to come through. So I showed the text to SD. I'm like, yo, we gonna swing by later. to Queens and, check out SexyyRed, out in Queens, she's shooting a music video. So you're like, alright, blood. So we shopping throughout Harlem, buying different shit, sneakers, clothes, whatever, right? So I wanted to go to Daniel's Leather. Y'all could also, shout to Daniel's Leather. Look up Daniel's Leather. Official, they got the illest leathers, fur coats, mink coats, everybody shop there. You know what I mean? From, like, Fat Joe to Jim Jones, Rick Ross, Angel Reese, Nas, Ghostface Killer, Lila Anthony, like you name them, then Neo, everybody, Swiss Beats, Alicia Keys, everybody shops at Daniel's Leather in New York. Y'all can look this up, you know what I mean? You'll see like the different celebrities trying on fur coats, leather coats, you know what I mean? So we go to Daniel's Leather in Lower Manhattan, so as I walk in, Daniel, the owner, of course, he surprised you like, hey, Tony, he told me, because my father used to shop at Daniel's. My father was a street hustler too, God bless his soul. So he knew Daniel, because my father used to always shop there, so he knew me. So he's like, oh, Tony, what up, what up? I'm like, what up? Shook hands, hug, you know what I mean? And, he was saying it's good to see me. He ain't seen me since I was younger. He was like, yeah, your father was a good man. I'm like, yeah. So we chopped it up for a bit. So, so I'm like, yo, I know you got some new shit. He was like, yeah, man. He was like, look around, look around. So, me and SD looking around. I look in the back, I noticed my nigga Dice Peso. Now, Dice Peso is a rap artist from the Bronx that signed to Jim Jones' Bird Gang record label. So I'm like, yo, Dice, what up? And then, Dice saw me. He's like, oh, shit. He was like, my nigga Tony. So we hug up. So I'm like, what's good? And we chopped it up a little bit. I told him, I'm proud of you. I've seen you doing your thing, doing your thing with the music. And he's like, yeah. He was like, I got a show tonight. Club Amazoa. Club Amazoa is in Queens, you know what I mean? So he's like, yo, I got a show tonight. Y'all should come through. I was like, I introduced him to SD first. And, he was like, what up? So I'm like, yeah. So he telling us about the show. I'm like, yo, we'll come through. I was like, yo, get us like some passes so that way, I ain't got to worry about security because, I like to be strapped. I like to be safe at all times. I like to keep, my girlfriends with me. You gotta know what that is. That's that click, click, you know what I mean? That boom, boom, So he like, all right. So he calls the promoter. The promoter picks up. He's like, yo, he said, I got two of my homies. They gonna come through to the show, you know what I mean? Put their name on the guest list. So that's when he said, he's like, my man Tony, and he was like, what's your man name? I was like, SD. He was like, yeah, an SD. So the promoter says, alright, so he puts my name down, he put SD name down. So that's when I told Dice, I said, yo, Dice, I just got a text from my man Jaffe. He said SexyyRed is in town, she's shooting a video in Queens. He was like, yeah, I got the text too. He said, I might swing by there, but I'm running around and getting ready for the show. He said, but if I don't see you at the video shoot with SexyyRed, I see you at the show. So I said, say no more. So, shook hands, pound, hug. And then that's when he walked towards the front to make his purchase, you know what I mean? He had like 3 niggas with him. So Dice Peso makes his purchase and leaves out, you know what I mean? I'm gonna go to the show later to check him out because he's opening for Jim Jones. That's Jim Jones' artist, plus that's my man, Dice Peso. His song is, is the short promo to this, episode right here. I make sure I have Jake Banger put it in there. But anyway, so Dice Peso makes his purchase, he leaves. So, me and SD looking around, we looking at different furs, leathers. So SD tried on this all red Averex. Here was this fly-ass, smooth-ass red Averex. He tries on the red Averex, cause SD's into that blood shit. He's like, yeah, blood. He's like, yo, this shit smooth right here, blood. So SD tries on the red Averex. He said, I think I'm gonna wear this tonight, you know what I mean, to the show or whatever. Alright, cool. Then he copped something for Jade. I started rolling my eyes when he said he think he gonna get something for Jade. I'm like, oh God. You know what I mean? Cause, 1 minute they together, 1 minute they ain't woman. You know what I mean? That Bobby Whitney shit. So, he got like this pink and white, like mink slash leather, like jacket. It was like waist length. It was like waist lift. So, he was buying the red Averex for himself and was getting his coat for Jay, but he was gonna have Daniel mail the coat to Dallas, you know what I mean, so that way he wouldn't have to lug it around, okay? So he just gave Daniel his information so they could mail Jay's jacket and then SD would buy his shit. So I looked around. I started trying on the Pele Peles, you know what I mean? You know, Pele Peles is classic in New York, so trying on the different Pele Peles. You know, it was this one Pele I tried on. You know, it was navy blue and red. It had like red stripes on it. Navy blue. Fire. I'm like, yeah, I think I'm gonna go with this. You know what I mean? With some construction Tims, you know what I mean? I was gonna keep it all the way in New York. You know what I mean? And you know, fuck it. So me and SD copped a few jackets or whatever. I think I bought like 2 jackets. I bought like 2 Pele Peles. I ain't feel like buying no furs and minks or whatever. So I bought like 2 Pele Peles for myself. SD copped the Averex and a jacket for Jade. So boom. You know, we head out. Cool. Go back to Hilton. Drop our shit off. Now we heading out to Queens. You know what I mean? We heading out to Queens. You know what I mean? My cousin Shaq Capone once again. Now this time, he pulls up in the BM. My cousin, Shaq Capone, he's been doing his thing with like the party promotions. Like he done promoted like all the parties in Queens. He used to run the streets, but he done promoted all the parties in Queens. He's done had us started a clothing line. You know, he used to manage, every artist you could think of, from, the Nicki Minaj's, Jim Jones, Joel Santana, Lloyd Banks. He managed and promote for a lot of people. My cousin been doing his thing, so now my cousin picks me up in the BM, so he got plenty cars. Had the Range Rover yesterday, now he got the BM today. So he picks us up. Now we heading out to Queens. Out to West Side Merritt. Merritt is where, rapper Maserati Fox, who passed away, who got, bodied, that got killed a couple years ago, like 10, 12 years ago. He was official nigga too, rest in peace Maserati. I could look up Maserati Fox, he was signed to G Unit or whatever. Maserati Fox was signed to G Unit. So now we going to his part of town, which is Merritt, Merritt Boulevard. Merritt, is in Queens. So now we pull up, there's mad people on the block, mad people, people, police, it's crazy. So, me and SD and my cousin, we walking through, shaking hands, people we know, shaking hands, people we ain't seen in a while. So I see Jaffe, I'm like, yo, Jaffe, what up? So Jaffe, show love, and then, we see SexyyRed right there, she performing her song Ski or whatever that shit. So she's performing, like I said, y'all can look this up, type in SexyyRed, shooting a music video in Queens or whatever, or SexyyRed of Queens. She's right there, performance alive, so SexyyRed performing her song and shit. You know what I mean? So cool. So, me and SD got a chance, to meet SexyyRed. She came through, show love. Boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean? But it was so much going on. We didn't get to, talk to her like that. It was just like, hey, how you doing? I wanted, boom, like a head nod, and then boom. So, I asked Jaffe, yo, you going to Amazon tonight? He was like, yeah, because he's holding SexyyRed down, while she's out here, because Jaffe's official, you know what I mean? Look him up, that's, he ran with G Unit. He was one of the, like, goons and shit, but he raps too. So Jaffe, like, yeah, he said, I'm gonna be there. SexyyRed is one of the special guests, so that's when we knew who one of the special guests was SexyyRed, because the whole show was, you had my nigga Dice Peso opening for Jim, because he signed to Jim, and then, SexyyRed, was a guest, and then there's a few other people, and I think Fat Joe was headlining, because it was something, because it was like a uptown theme. You had Fat Joe, Cardi B, Jim Jones, and Dice Peso. They all from, like, the Bronx, and Jim Jones repped Harlem in Bronx, so it was like uptown invades Queens type of thing. And they had like a lot of special guests, and that's how we found out SexyyRed was one of the special guests. So he's like, yeah, he gonna be there. He gonna be holding SexyyRed down. So we like, all right, cool. I was like, yeah, I ran into Dice Peso. He already gave us, put us on the guest list. So me and my man here, we gonna, so he's like, all right, cool. So we shook hands, boom. So now we head back to the city. My cousin said he don't think he was gonna go, but he alone is one of his cars. And make sure he, get 2 girlfriends from me. I already said what my 2 girlfriends is, Keita and Medina, that, You know what I mean? That click, click, you know what I mean? Because I ain't going nowhere without mines, you know what I mean? Never leave home without it, you know? It's like American Express you did. So me and SD head back to the city. Boom, we getting ready for the show. So now, you know what I mean? You know, my cousin Shaq Capone said just swing by his house and come pick up the cars. So we had an Uber pick me and SD up. You know, I had like I said, I had the navy blue and red, Pele leather, with some construction tins. I had the navy blue ski mask rolled up. I ain't have it pulled down yet. I had it rolled up. And SD had the red, leather Averex and shit. Some Jordans, that was red, that go with it. And he had a red bandana hanging from the right side, cool. So we go out to my cousin's house. And he got plenty cars, so, we looking around. And I'm like, yo, because the SD wanted to take the BM or the Benz. And I'm like, nah, let's go with the Maserati. And at first, SD was like, nah, you don't think you want to ride in the Maserati? Till I told my cousin, yo, turn the car on. So when he turned the car on, my cousin had the what's his name light. My cousin, he had the red underglow light, that's where you put the lights under the car. So the Maserati was all black with red seats inside. And then when my cousin cut the light on, it was this red light and that caught SD attention. He like, yo, that shit is fire, blood. He like, yeah, blood. He was like, yeah. He was like, you're right, Tony, we should go with this. So, so we went with the all black Maserati with the red leather seats inside, red interior, and the red, underglow underneath the car. So cool. So my cousin, he hands me the two girlfriends, Keita and Medina, So I put, each one of my girlfriends, which, they all black, ready to go, fully loaded. I put each one in my, in my jacket pockets on each side, kind of like how little baby always had his hands in his hoodie. Then, I was like that, but, hands in my leather jacket. So he gave me each one of my girlfriends for the night, put them on me, so now we good, So we hop in the Maserati. I tell my cuz, yo, love you, man. We gonna be back. He like, alright, be safe. Cause my cousin said he ain't feel like going. Cause, he just, he's always around that party shit and promoting artists. He like, nah, man, he gonna fall back for the night. But he gonna let us borrow his car. Alright, cool. Me and SD pull off. Boom. So we on our way to the club. Club in Missouri in Queens. Mind you, I'm born and raised in Queens, Southside Jamaica, Queens, Baisley Projects. Born and raised, so we riding through. So I'm home, I'm feeling good. I got Hot 97 blasting, Funk Master Flex is on the radio telling everybody to, get the club in resolved, but he gonna be there later that night, So I'm listening to so he's playing like all the classics from back in the day, all that classic 50 Cent G-Unit shit, Dipset shit, Locks, D-Block shit, just playing all the classics. I'm hype, SD, he from Dallas, he from Texas, so he, he's vibing, but he's not really into it, But I'm hyped, cause I'm back home, now I'm here, music, that I grew up on, my shit, so we vibing. All the way to Club Amazon, boom. It's packed out there, cars everywhere, ladies everywhere, niggas everywhere, Mad Bloods is there, cause fucking Cardi B's there, Jim Jones is there, so, and, special guest, SexyyRed is there, so it's Mad Bloods, so SD love that, he's like, yeah, he feel at home. So boom, we park up, a couple blocks down, matter of fact, no, we ain't park up a couple blocks down. Matter of fact, yes we did. Parked up a couple blocks down, like 2 blocks away from the club. Boom. Park up. So now, cause we too deep, I'm home, plus I got my girlfriends with me. So me and SD be walking, walking through the crowd. Get the club Amazon, we walking past everybody cause we got passes. So we get to the door. Tony, we on the guest list, Dice Peso got us on the guest list. So he's like, what's the names? I was like, Tony, and SD, they look, looking for a minute. I thought they was gonna be like, nah, but they was like, oh, alright. So they opened the velvet rope thing, let us through. We didn't even get searched. They just let us in. They like, alright, cause they put us down for VIP or whatever. Alright, so boom, me and SD walk in. We get in club, Amazon is packed, packed. There's chicks in there. Everybody, fly, leathers, furs, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Everybody in there, you know what I mean? It was chilly outside, but it's hot as a motherfucker inside. So, you got chicks in there with just, like a tank top more on it, like short skirts and shorts dancing, like, you know what I mean? So we like, shit, they jamming. So Funkmaster flexes now, and he's in the club because he was recording live from the Amazon on the radio, telling everybody to come down now. You see Flex right there on the stage, DJ, DJ Funkmaster Flex killing it, got the crowd rocking, everybody rocking, so SD looking around or whatever. I'm looking around, we chilling. So boom, so we walk up, and we walk up, and we in the middle of the dance floor, cause now the show about to start, so boom, show starts. You see, people, like, my nigga Dice Peso, he performed. Boom, 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 he performed. Of course, he brings out Jim Jones, crowd go crazy, everybody black, doing that blood shit, right? Jim Jones performed, he's shutting it down. So you like, hold on, he said, he has a surprise, he brings out SexyyRed, crowd going crazy. SexyyRed performing. So when it came down to the song, time to do the song, Babe I Love You, that Babe I Love You, my everything shit. She was looking for a guy in the crowd, so they put the spotlight on me. She was like, come up here, but I'm like, nah, I didn't want to go up there because I had my I had two guns on me and I didn't want to get excited or move a certain way and the gun fall out, then, security tackle me, so I'm like, nah. So I pointed out, like, my man here. So that's when SD started, smiling, she saw the gold grills and she was like, I like the grills, daddy, that's what she said. She told SD, she was like, come here. So that's when I said, so I hyped SD up, so SD said, fuck it. So SD go up on the stage. So soon as SD go up on the stage, she noticed not only she had on a red jacket, he had on a red jacket, he had on a red bandana. And she was like, what you claiming? She was like, what's up, blood? What you claiming? And that's when, SD started throwing out the blood sign. That's when the whole crowd was like, black, the whole crowd showed SD love. He just smiling, you see his grill smiling and shit. I'm in the audience, cheering my nigga on. I'm like, yeah, SD, yeah, SD. So, they going crazy. She asked him where it's from. He was like, I'm from South Dallas. Nah, South Dallas. She was like, oh, you from the South? She was like, okay. So they pulled out a chair, kind of like how Janet Jackson used to do. They got a chair, they sit SD in the chair. So SexyyRed is on top of him, singing the song, Babe I Love You, whatever, rapping and shit. Twerking on him, the dancers is, twerking on him. And, his shit was lit, it's cool. She performed that cool. So now SD comes back to where I'm at, I'm laughing, teasing him. I'm like, yeah, my boy, he laughing and shit. So, cool. So SexyyRed, so Dice Peso performed, Jim Jones performed, boy, how SexyyRed she performed. So now she's performing it and she brings out like a few other people, like she brought out like Fad, Jada Kiss, people like that. So me and SD like, yo, let's go to the bar, get something to drink. I don't drink, but I wanted to get some juice. He wanted to, of course, get some liquor. So boom, we get to the bar. We chillin', we ordered, I ordered some juice. SD ordered like, a shot or something. I forgot it was. He ordered like, a cup of something. So we drinking at the bar. Somebody tapped me on my shoulder. I turned around. It's the Spanish chick. And she was like, yo, she was like, Miss Lopez, you know what I mean? She was like, I'm like, who? She was like, J-Lo, like Jennifer Lopez. She, she'd like to meet you or whatever. Me and SD looked at each other. I'm thinking it's a chick trying to line me up or something. I'm like, yeah. I said, well, tell Jennifer, or Miss Lopez, I like my women like I like my women like I like my coffee black. And then me and SD just laughed, and then the girl had like a funny look. And I just, we just turned that back like, the fuck? So the girl walks away and leaves. We ain't think nothing of it. We thinking, well, maybe she done popped the pill and So next thing you know, somebody taps me on my shoulder again, so I swing around, and it's Jennifer Lopez herself. I'm like, oh shit, she had like this big security guard, like one of the security guards from the club, but there was like two big motherfuckers standing behind her. And I'm like, oh shit. She was like, yeah, she was like, my assistant came over here and told you that I wanted to meet you, but she told me what you said about, the statement about the coffee, and she was like, I just wanted to let you know that was a racist statement. So I smiled and said, nah, I was joking, cause I ain't believe it, cause in my mind I'm thinking, why would, Jennifer Lopez be in a place like this? And she smiled and said, I get it. And she said, well, I would like, for you to, come to my section and hang out with me. So I said, well, I got my friend with me, can he come? She was like, yeah. So fuck it. So me and SD, we followed J-Lo. So now one of the security guards get in front of J-Lo. The other one get behind me and SD. And the one in front is like moved, like flat. He had a flashlight in his hand and he's flashing it back and forth so people can move. So boom, boom, boom. So now, security guard moves out the way. J-Lo walks up the steps. I walk up behind her, SD behind me. Now we in VIP. Boom, so we chilling. So now we in VIP chilling. So at this point I took off my jacket, rolled my sleeves up on my sweater, cause it was getting hot. But I kept my jacket closed cause I got my two girlfriends with me. SD sitting on the side, so boom, from the VIP you can see the stage, see the show. So, like I said, SexyyRed is on stage. She got Fad, Jada Kiss, a few other people up there. So now, me and her, me and J-Lo talking, she asking me where I'm from and all that shit. We talking, kicking it. So, that's when she said, yo, I'm gonna be right back. She said, I gotta, hit the stage real quick. And I'm gonna come right back. She said, don't go nowhere. I'm like, alright, cool. So she, goes, to go to the, I guess, the back area to where the stage was, which was surprising because I didn't think J-Lo was going to perform. I'm like, okay. So SexyyRed brings out Cardi B, so now Cardi B hits the stage. Crowd getting hyped, you know what I mean? Cardi B performed a couple songs, you know what I mean? Then she brings out, J-Lo, because, that Latina pride or whatever, so she brings out J-Lo. So now J-Lo performed like a song. So now J-Lo, brings out LL. So now I'm hyped because LL's a legend from Queens. Boom, boom. So now she performs the song with LL. And then she brings out Ja Rule. Crowd went crazy. Now I admit, I don't really fuck with Ja. Like, I like a couple of his songs and shit. But, Hollis niggas with Ja Rule from Hollis, they don't really fuck with Southside niggas. So I'm like, But, I must admit, J-Lo and, Ja Rule shut the place down, went crazy. So she performed two songs. She performed the song with LL, the song, like two songs with Ja Rule. Then, she brings out Fat Joe, and then she performs the song that she got with Fat Joe, because Fat Joe was headlining, boom. So now she leaves the stage, and Fat Joe is on the stage, and, Fat Joe and Ja pretty much went back and forth and was, pretty much was closing the show, but, they performed for a minute because they brought out other people, you know what I mean? Other guests, whatever, other artists and shit. You know what I mean? So, now, J-Lo comes back, we kicking it. So she was like, let's go to my car. She said, I got a car parked in the back, cause, there's a special interest where, like, the artists come in. Cause it's a special interest where the artists come in. So she said she had a car parked right there. Cool, so I told SD, I'm gonna go kick it with J-Lo, and I'll be back. So I made sure I turned a certain way and handled one of my girlfriends. So SD good, he got one of the girlfriends with him, and I got one with me, so I said I'd be right back. So me and J-Lo, we go in the back, where her car is, she got a driver in there and, security waiting there. So they open the back door for me and her to get in, so we kicking it, whatever. The driver steps out to give us privacy. We chilling, we talking. So I asked her when me and her, want to talk to me or whatever, because I'm just a regular nigga, And she smiled, she said, nah, she's like, real attractive, you seem down to earth. So I'm like, alright, so we kicking it. Next thing we kissing and shit, feeling on each other, doing our thing. That's how I got that picture. We look, That picture with me and J-Lo in the back seat, right? She had her driver take the picture for me. No, man. You know me, I'm always keep it hood. I have my mask on and shit, cause, I'm low-key, even though I'm flashy at times, I'm low-key, So, that's how I got that picture with J-Lo in the back of that car. Back of that Maybach or whatever, so be chilling, fondling each other, kissing on each other, doing different things, sucking on her breast, we ain't had sex, but I did, put my finger in it, whatever, tongue, doing all types of things. Then after a while, she was like, well, she gotta get ready to go, cause she gotta get ready for a flight in the morning. But she said, here's my numbers, call me or whatever. I gave her my contact. She was like, hopefully, I get to see you again. Alright, cool. So I go back in the club. So now, something happened to where I couldn't get back in the club. I'm like, yo, my boy in there, and he was like, nah, you gotta go this way. So now I'm in the front of the club, it's mad, people running, people ducking. I'm like, what the fuck? So like somehow a shootout happened. I'm like, what the fuck? Y'all can look this up. 10 or 11 people get shot at Missouri at this time, at that time. This was the same night. So I'm ducking. I got, so as soon as I heard the shots, I'm like, oh shit. So now I pull my gun out. I'm ducking, people running back and forth. I'm hearing shots, but I don't see where it's coming from. So my whole time, like, damn. So I saw, when the midst of me ducking and looking around, I saw SD. I'm like, yo, SD. I was shocked to see SD. You know what I mean? So SD runs across the street. He got his gun out. So we ducking. I noticed Jim. Somehow, Jim Jones gets separated from his entourage. He's outside ducking, so something like, yo, Capo, could we call Jim Jones Capo? I'm like, Capo. So he must have remembered SD from when he got the lap dance on SexyyRed, so he runs over. I'm like, yo, so I'm like, yo, you good, homie? What's going on? He was like, I don't know. He's like, that some shit broke out, a fight broke out, and somehow he got separated from his team. So I'm like, yo, we got you, Capo, we got you. Now this is crazy. Me and SD are with Jim Jones ducking while the shots is firing. Me and SD is strapped, and Jim Jones is with us. We like, what the fuck? So we ducking. I'm like, yo, our car's this way. So I'm like, yo, Capo, we going this way. So we ducking. We run into the cars and shit. Shots is firing, we seeing people screaming, bodies on the ground. Like I said, y'all can look this up. We get to the car, boom. So Capo, Jim Jones gets on the phone with his team. He like, yo, we all at. So it's mad police coming at this point. So we like, yo, we could take you uptown and you can meet your team up there. So that's when Jim said, nah, meet us here. I think we met up at a Wendy's. Over in Queens, or like, it might have been like the KFC or some shit in Queens somewhere, right? Get up. Capo, we reunite him back with his team and shit. Crazy. So boom. So that was a wild night, so me and SD, driving back, up, up to Manhattan, I decided to keep the Maserati that my cousin loaned us, because, it was late. I didn't want to disturb him. We drove back to Manhattan and we just was bugging how the whole night went. Like, yo, niggas would not believe all the shit we went through, me meeting J-Lo and, niggas ain't gonna believe that shit. And then, SD getting the lap dance with SexyyRed and all this shit. We was just bugging, so we just went back and we laid low and we seen on the news, 10 people shot, And, it was a crazy, crazy night. So, we decided just to lay low for the rest of our time there, because we only had like maybe one day left. So, I took the cars back to my cousin, gave them back to girlfriends, And me and SD, probably like a day later, we head back to Dallas and shit. So like I said, probably I had like a little spot where I had like a studio where I used to have, platinum record at. And my other artist, Jade at the time before she got shot, I used to have them record, so I had like a little recording studio and a game room right there, where we watch TV and niggas would play pool and shit. So we in the game room, SD playing pool, with platinum or whatever. I'm sitting back, watching TV, and Now mind you, it was a few times I tried to reach out to J-Lo and I could never get in contact with her. I would always get the assistant. And the assistant would, have me leave my name, my number, and say, well, we have her call you back, or they always say, well, she's in a session at the studio, or she's at the gym, or she's on a movie set. Like, she was always busy, you know what I mean? So I got tired of reaching out, so eventually I just stopped reaching out. And, she might have called me maybe once, but, I didn't hear from her like that for like a minute. I didn't hear from her. You know what I mean? So, mind you, me and SD chilling. He playing pool. 'Cause we back in Dallas now, so he playing pool with Platinum. And I'm chilling and, he's telling them how the night went with, Jim Jones and the shooting and, SexyyRed at the video shoot. A lot of niggas though we was lying until like a lot of the footage came out about the shooting. And the thing with SexyyRed, I already knew they wasn't gonna believe me. Plus, I ain't want to kiss and tell, you know what I mean? Even though I still had a hickey on my neck from J-Lo. So we chillin'. Why is he telling story? It comes up on the screen that J-Lo and A-Rod got engaged. And I'm like, wow. And that's when SD looked at me. And me and him just bust out laughing. But, Platinum and everybody else ain't know why we was laughing. I just started laughing. I just shook my head. And, it was right there on TMZ, man. J-Lo and A-Rod, was engaged to get married. And, yeah, man, that just sums up a crazy time, not only taking SD to New York, but my time, that I had, or that little moment I had with, Jennifer Lopez, nah, man.